But Rebecca, it's not like you are just highly critical of the DA. In fact, I think it was last week you wrote a column about the DA's sort of perceived return to family values, but then you also highlighted that this has really been sort of ANC rhetoric for a while too. Really in South Africa, it seems most political parties have got this idea of a return to family values. In fact, just a year ago, we were doing all the election reporting, and I think that the IFP, of course, feel very strongly about this. Obviously, the ACDP do too. It really is kind of a narrative in South Africa, and on the surface, a return to family values sounds cool. Like, what on earth could you have a problem with? But really, you say that there's something below that that's problematic.
Yeah, and part of it is that it just doesn't reflect the reality of South African families, which, I mean, what do we mean by family, for a start? It's such a, there's so many permutations of what that could mean. Is, for instance, a couple without children, is that a family? Like, that's not clear to me. A single mother with kids, is that a family? The number of South African children who live with both their parents is absolutely minimal. I can't remember the exact figure, but it's either in the 20 or 30 percentile. It is far more common for a South African child to live with their mother than with both their parents. So just for a start, this notion that, the family is all you need is just not reflective of what's going on in South Africa widely. But I mean, among classic liberals, and I know that word comes in for a lot of flack, but I mean here, progressive thinking people, the notion of family values also goes together with a kind of quite moralistic thinking about how people should live, often goes together with, again, a kind of religious discourse. In America, we see it a lot from the Christian right, and, focus on the family and that kind of a thing. So for me, it was interesting that the Democratic Alliance, which is, this liberal party, should have now written this into its values charter for the first time. It specifically said that they want family values. And, apparently at the DA Congress, I wasn't there, but the reporting on it suggested that this was Helen Zille's legacy to the DA, which is one of the reasons why delegates wanted it to pass. And we know that Helen Zille is religious, that she perhaps, she's spoken about the importance of her own family, so maybe this is just something that's highly significant to her. But apart from anything else, and I mean, as I've said, I have my own problems with, implementing it in values, the values charter like that. It's not a unique idea for South African politicians. As you've just said, the ANC has been banging on about the family for years. All the other political parties virtually have as well. So if the DA wants to differentiate itself from a policy perspective, I mean, it's nothing new.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
Now, you spend day in and day out writing about politicians and what happens in Parliament, and obviously the book was kind of a really welcome departure for that, I imagine.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite part of the book, a favorite bit to write, or a favorite memory that you kind of dug up while you were writing through this?
My favorite essay in the book is actually about Goldilocks, just because I got thinking about it and I was like, man, that story is so weird.
It's
makes
ridiculous.
Absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
When you break it down, the story of Goldilocks is just absurd, and I don't know why we keep telling it to children because there's no clear message. Goldilocks does all this bad stuff, and nothing bad happens to her. It's an encouragement of irresponsibility.
Yeah, it's almost kind of a beautiful analogy of what happens in South Africa sometimes, to be perfectly honest with you. Before you go, I need to ask you, despite the fact that you often deal every day, actually all day, with some depressing subject matter, and politicians and trolls and people who lie to your face straight up, you're a very optimistic South African. That's kind of a non-negotiable for you. You love the country. And are you excited for the next year? I mean, we're looking to local government elections, whole lot of stuff happening. Are you optimistic and excited? Do you want to run and hide? How are you feeling?
I don't know anyone who's excited for local government elections, Trisha. I mean, that's pushing it. I can't say I'm excited for local.
But you're best white, Rebecca. Best whites are really excited about local government.
And they're excited about democratic process as well, and the will of the majority being heard. I find South Africa a fascinating place to live. That doesn't mean it always enchants me, or that I don't often feel depressed about what's going on. But in general, I just think you couldn't have a more consistently invigorating place to live. And that's why I'm here.
Awesome. How can we find you on Twitter, and where can we find your writing online?
On Twitter, you can find me at BexPlanB. You can find my writing more generally on the Daily Maverick pretty much every day. Otherwise, you can find a lot of my writing in this book, which is available from Exclusives, some CNAs. It's available online at Loot, and I think it's also at Wordsworth's.
You practiced that.
Yeah,
Amazing.
thanks.
Rebecca Davis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Teresa.